Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WWT Experts. I'm your host, Matthew Coble, and today I'm excited to be talking with WWT expert Marlan Hardie about the rapidly evolving landscape of telecommunications companies around the world and how digital transformation initiatives being undertaken now are really going to spark the evolution in mobility and entertainment in the future. Marlan is Chief Digital Officer for Worldwide Technology's global service provider organization and was recently recognized as a modern-day technology leader at the 2023 Black Engineer of the Year Award STEM Conference. It's a lot to say, but very impressive stuff. Prior to Worldwide Technology, he held prominent customer experience roles with the likes of Ernst & Young, Capgemini, and Salesforce. He's got two wonderful children, born on the same day 7 years apart, which is also New Year's Eve, which is fantastic. I bet that's super fun at the Hardie household. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marlan Hardie. Great to see you.
Hey, Matthew. Good to see you too. Excited to be on the show. Thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate you joining us. Well, listen, you've got extensive customer experience in your background, and for the last 4 years, you've been working with Worldwide Technology's mobile service provider clients. And the telco industry in general isn't exactly synonymous always with a great customer experience. But these days, every industry is really emphasizing the quality of their user experience for both for customers and for employees. So I'm curious, what are telcos and cable companies doing today that's different? Is there anything innovative that they should be sharing with other industries?
Well, it's an interesting question, Matthew. Having spent 26 years in the telecom industry, which for us is not only our large telcos, it's also our media and gaming MSOs, our media service operators. It's interesting that you're right. They're not recognized as a really empathetic organization, especially when you compare them to other industries like healthcare, where people are suffering, or financial services where they want you to trust them with your entire family wealth. So I think the interesting thing about service providers as we look forward, they're really starting to change their tune. It's funny because the service providers are also some of the largest enterprises in the world. So if you look at them outside of just large communication networks, they struggle with some of the same enterprise problems that, our largest enterprises in other verticals struggle with. I think the other thing that's really cool about the service provider market is the fact that, they also are some of the largest owners of retail storefront. I was talking to an executive the other day, just doing some comparisons. You think of Walmart as one of the largest retailers. If you take the spend out of the equation and you just focus on the storefront presence, Walmart's got, I think, somewhere around 4,600 stores in the US. Well, AT&T's got 5,300. Verizon's got 7,000. And so what we're starting to see is the service providers take an opportunity to step back, realize that their customers do matter, that they've got to empower their employees, whether they're in a call center or they're in a retail store. For us, even field operations is important, the experience in the home. And they're really taking a forefront focus on how can they use digital technologies to empower those employees to drive a better experience. And so when we look at retail, part of where WWT is bringing a lot of value is all of the experience that we have from our GES verticals, working with our large banks and healthcare organizations and bringing that straight into the service providers.
Well, you mentioned there the call center or the contact center, as we sometimes think about it, and that's traditionally been one of the big front doors to a company. As customer expectations are changing, we're also seeing a wave of contact center technologies that are also changing the game there. So what are you seeing in that part of the market, and how should organizations be thinking about technology as really driving a better experience through their contact centers?
Yeah, you make a good point there. So especially when you say customer expectations are changing, for us, we're starting to observe that the service providers are changing around how they treat their customers. Some customers, especially through COVID, we saw wanted no interaction whatsoever. Some customers still want high touch, a voice call every single time. And so for these organizations of large scale to be able to pivot on the fly and understand when to provide certain types of service and interaction is a real challenge. And so I think the first thing we are seeing in terms of technology adoption is certainly AI. The first tip of the spear was around chatbots, but those chatbots were really just serving up articles. We saw a surge in robotic process automation that really took those automations and looked for deep insights in order to respond to certain situations. But now with generative AI, it's a whole new world, and we're starting to see the service providers already adopt that in how they empower their employees with on-demand AI suggestions on say this to the customer, respond here, use this app in order to satisfy a customer request is just amazing. The other thing I would say that's really important, everything we're talking about here is data. And so security has really hit the roof. If you look at the breaches that have happened, without saying any names in the telecom space, it's been a tremendous impact on the business. So as we look at the ability to adopt technology, it's really around personalizing the experience to each customer, how they want to interact with the brand, and using AI technologies to accelerate that interaction. And if data is not secure, then we can't use certain sensitive pieces of that data in order to personalize the experience the way the customer wants. So a lot of spend and focus is on, whether it be SASE, whether it be device detections, whether it be for a remote worker or it's for a field guy that's riding on a truck. Security is the spine of the focus in all digital transformation with our customers.
Well, listen, you were recently quoted in a news article. I'll read that to you, right? The voice of the customer and the employee are both getting louder and easier to measure. And this presents a golden opportunity for organizations. So expound on that for us and tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think the narrative is this. We have focused so long as an industry on great customer experience. As a practitioner in the industry, the thing that we all recognize is the customer is the one that's paying the organization, but we'll never deliver a great customer experience if we're not listening to our employees when they need help, when they need escalations. If we're not empowering them to stay inside of the guidelines of what they've been trained to do, but to make on-demand decisions, the customer will never get a delightful experience. And so what we really mean by that is organizations have to start listening to their employees the same way or in a similar way that they listen to their customers. And so what we're starting to see, again, as a trend is organizations investing in AI technologies where they can listen to what an employee is saying. Used to be in a call center, we had to sit there with a VTAP and you got a guy listening to the agent sitting right next to us. We can't do that at scale these days. And we certainly can't do it with accuracy amongst all the agents, amongst all the reps. So technologies like AI, where we can listen to inflections, we can listen to certain word patterns, and be able to make recommendations with the employee that will satisfy our customers is of tremendous value.
Yeah. Well, and so do you think that those, I'm building on that a little bit, do you think those voices are going to keep being loud like that, both on the customer side and the employee side, or do you think that technologies will keep up and or catch up rather and sort of quiet that down and we'll all be sort of more comfortable with where things are?
No, I think that's one of the lessons learned, right? Is AI and technology at first was thought to be replacing people. What we've seen across industries is people want people. They just want people to move faster with predictability and with accuracy. And so the digital technology investment is really around doing just that. It's giving the power to the employee to move at light speed. In many cases, knowing what the customer already wants, what they've started virtually, by the time they get to have an in-person interaction.
All right, well, I know that something that's important to you, or a couple things, are sustainability and socially conscious business. how are those ideas playing out and part of that sort of employee experience or the customer experience? And what are the best practices that you're seeing out in the marketplace from our telco clients or perhaps others you're speaking with?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites because when we think about the carriers and their impact on a sustainability, again, many times we think of them as just these large communication networks, but in reality, they are some of the largest data centers, some of the largest central offices that are sitting in our communities, and now the ones that are raising towers in our home community. And so as I think about supplier diversity and watch what carriers are really focusing on, there is no doubt, you think about environmental sustainability and governance. There's no doubt that with that physical presence, they're thinking a ton about the environmental impact. But we're also seeing a tremendous focus on ERGs inside of the organization, who they're hiring to get work done. And as we look at policy that they're rolling out in terms of equality and inclusion in their workforce, we're starting to see that that's pushed out even to their suppliers. So as they're reaching out into government contracts to build out smart cities, as they're looking at building new buildings, the suppliers they're using are even focused on, with intention, sustainability around technologies that are green in order to follow the culture that they want to set.
All right, well, so here's another thing that we found that you said, and this time it came from your LinkedIn profile. That was clever and wanted to read that back to you. So you're saying that a lot of OEMs are suffering from slow adoptionosis, which sounds like some kind of creepy medical condition. So you may have to check your credentials on that. But companies in big and small are transitioning from a capital expense mindset or CapEx to an operating expense or OpEx mindset. And I think this probably relates to, cloud models, SaaS solutions, and those sorts of things. But, I want you to share with us, what do you mean by slow adoptionosis, and how can organizations really think thoughtfully about their infrastructure as they're making that move from CapEx to OpEx?
Yeah, so I may have embellished that term just a little bit, but
you can roll with it. Come on, roll with it. I love it.
The point of the term is really around what you just said, right? Our organizations are being forced to move into cloud adoption, which is a great movement that we're seeing because the resources to support on-prem platforms at scale just are not there anymore. The challenge is now they're being forced to move in a situation where they've got to start adopting what they've invested in. In the old world, they could buy perpetual licenses and software and it sit on the shelf until they're ready to actually implement it and test it to security standards. But these days, the longer it sits there, the more value they lose in the multi-year investment that they've made in that OEM. And so we're seeing that our service providers are really focusing on what does a multi-year deal mean for the business? How fast can we adopt an investment in a cloud-based software or technology? And then if we have those on the shelf today, at the end of a 2-year cycle inside of a 3-year deal, if it hasn't been adopted yet, then maybe we don't need it. And so it's a real good opportunity for us at Worldwide that we're taking advantage of in service provider to help them look at those technologies. Do you have more than one? If it's sitting on the shelf, what is it that's keeping it there? Is it a security policy that you haven't tested yet? Is it a fact that you haven't tested an integration with another core technology? Could we help with that? And it's a conversation that we're having, yes, in the technology teams, but I will tell you, we're having a lot of success talking inside of the CFO organization because it's really a financial organizational conversation around CapEx versus OpEx and how they recognize the benefits of those ROIs.
Well, I thought you were going to say, Marlan, I heard you say that your parents used to tell you all, if your toys are on the floor, you must not like them. So let's donate them to someone else, right?
It made us move quickly, right?
Yes,
so
right.
Same with our carriers and our customers. If the business knows that their assets are being looked at because they're not using them, the faster we can help them adopt those, the more real it is.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to kind of back up. During the intro, I shared that you recently received recognition as a modern day technology leader at the 2023 Bay STEM conference. So absolutely want to give you a moment. Tell us about that. What does it mean to you, and how are you moving that forward in the work you do?
I would say, Matthew, all I can say is it was an honor. To be recognized as an influencer in technology, as a person of color, is just tremendous. And to stand up there with 8 other colleagues who had made the same achievements and had the same recognition was just, it was a moment in my career I'll never forget. And I think the thing that's really important to me is the fact that one, we're not the last class. There's many, many more to come, and those that will have their turn to be recognized. But I also think with the publicity, it also sets an awesome example for those that are coming up in STEM schools, our children that are coming up after us, about where they can achieve their impacts and where they can give their talents back and be recognized as well. As I was talking to my colleagues and many others from different organizations, Matthew, it was tremendous to hear how they had come from backgrounds that I never would have guessed. They had struggles that they hadn't shared with others. And in many cases, they had used that in order to give them a superpower, right? And I think that's just an amazing example, something that I recognize from BEA. And I'm so thankful to the BEA organization and to Worldwide Technology for putting us on that platform, because it inspires me to not only keep driving technology as a person of color, but also to keep looking for those around me who also have that aspiration, who also maybe have not had that chance to be on that stage yet as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Look, I love that, and absolutely well-earned recognition for you. So congratulations on that. So listen, on top of your work with clients, and you're very busy, out in the marketplace doing that, you're also very actively involved in our diversity programs here at Worldwide Technology. And you recently attended the National Minority Supplier Development Council Conference in New Orleans. We had a chance to talk with CEO Ying McGuire about that, who spoke about the importance of being intentional about creating access to opportunity for minority-owned businesses. I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I love the word intentional. When we talk about supplier diversity, it's interesting that many people don't realize that supplier diversity doesn't just mean companies based on gender or race or servitude. It also includes small to medium businesses of any of those categories. So when you think about small to medium businesses, that's the spine of the U.S. economy. If they're not successful, our big businesses can't do everything on their own. We have to continue to invest in those small to medium businesses. In many cases, those are coming out of entrepreneurial corners in underserved communities. And so I love what she says around being intentional, because that's exactly what we are doing in our global service provider. I have the privilege of being the head of diverse services. And what that really means, Matthew, is we have put a process in place with our top carriers and MSOs, cable companies, where we are listening to how they are reporting their investment in small to medium and diverse businesses. And we are intentionally aligning to those. So as we get opportunities for field work, as we get opportunities to position strategic resourcing, we are intentionally looking at diverse organizations that align to our customers, and we're giving them the first chance to bid on that work. We obviously have to maintain the quality. We have to maintain the speed, all of the standards and the culture of WWT, but we're going to give them the first shot with intention to show our culture with our customers.
All right, last question. I always like to wrap with something like this. So we've covered a lot of ground today of different topics, but as you look to the coming years, tell us about a few things that you're really looking forward to, you're really excited about.
You know, we are making so much progress. I think inside of the vertical that I have the privilege to serve with the team and the customers that we have a history with and get to wake up and serve every day, I really feel passionate and feel like our global service providers have the ability, with empowered networks, with the focus on ESG, with the cultural awareness that they have a responsibility for those 5,300 or 7,000 stores to be a beacon of culture in their communities. I feel that our global service providers are looking to technology to change life in the future. That means giving jobs to underserved communities, giving a place where perhaps their retail stores can become more of a YMCA after hours. We're talking to some about how their stores can even be an assistance to law enforcement based on the lighting outside of the building for safe evacuations. There's an ability for us to have a tremendous impact through what typically is viewed as the communication and telco network. So our part is a privilege to share in that point of view and to help them execute at speed.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marlan. I appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
And thank you for joining us today. Another great WWT expert session. We've got a large back catalog of sessions you can check out on demand anytime. Plenty more coming up. Head to wwt.com/events and check that out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye, everyone.